Broomstick is a
All
big
right.
one.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Hearthcenter. We are back. It's week 8. We got a ton of stuff to talk to you about, as always. We got some special guests. Let's just kick it off without further ado with our introductions. Once again, joining us after a couple week break, it is the longest running member of THL, the OG. It is THL Lemur. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, I'm doing great. I'm a new classic mode gamer. I've never even heard of standard before. I'm pumped to be here and pumped for the announcements today.
Nice. Yep, there were definitely some very interesting announcements that we heard. If there's time, we'll try to get to it towards the end of our show. Of course, we have so much THL related going on that we gotta always race on through with so many series. I, of course, am your host, Ron Mexico, Ronnie Tuesday, back at you every Tuesday with some amazing Hearthstone related content in the form of Heart Center this week. And I am thrilled to be bringing you our special guest tonight. You may know him as the Vicious Syndicate Mage Specialist. You may know him as that guy who just won't stop winning in THL. We know him as Heat Shock. How are you doing, Heat Shock?
I'm great. It's cool to be here. I always love talking about Hearthstone and THL, so should be fun.
Seriously, Heat Shock, you got to stop
Absolutely.
winning. It has to stop.
I lost
Excellent
last
fit. We're
week.
glad to have you on. And of course, as always, down to my bottom right, it is Hearthstone's newest, or THL's newest doctor. It is Dr. Lotus Knight with the best gif of all time. How you doing, Lotus?
I'm doing great. I'm a little bit tired, a little bit of a long day, but I'm very excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, we've got, as always, to start us off, our recap of our players of the week. So we're going to dive right into it, starting with Legacy. Legacy, we had a new player of the week this week for you. Swaybe has been on her grind all season. Pod People's newest pickup came in with no conquest experience and has never hit diamond ranks. The last week of the regular season is where her hard work showed results, and she picked up her first THL and first conquest victory in a commanding 3-0 sweep. Join me in raising your brooms to Sway Bay. It's not about how you start, it's how you finish. It's right up brought to you by Based Inc. Next up for Player of the Week for Hero. Lemur, can you tell me who was our hero Player of the Week?
Oh, you know I can. The top 4 teams in Teal are still fighting a tough battle to lock up playoff spots, and every single point matters at this stage in the season. TA I know Boozasaurus took down a previously undefeated Hockey Boys 3-1 to help give D-Dab, or is it
Dab, just dab.
Dab on them a narrow 13-11 win over F2L Black in week 8. This win put his team in prime position to take over first place in the conference with Ask HS's upcoming bye week and earn him Player of the Week honors in the process. Now at 4-1, this booze just keeps cruising along. Brought to you by Dr. BOMD.
Nice. All right, and next we have for Pro Player of the Week, Heatshock. Tell me who was our Pro Player of the Week?
Well, in a series jam-packed with incredible teams and players, Tiger was faced with the unenviable prospect of having to defeat one of THL's newest Masters Tour qualifier winners, Nine Eyebrows. Tiger came up big in the clutch, taking a 3-2 victory to lock in a 13-12 win for Illinois Esports, clinching their first win of the season. Way to go, Tiger. You are the true king. Carol Baskin ain't got nothing on you. And that was Ron's nomination.
Killer, husband,
Awesome.
bash.
Yeah, I could have read it myself, but I wanted to hear
Yeah.
someone else say it. And lastly, Lotus, can you read me the Wild Player of the Week?
Well, I cannot, but I'm going to do my best. You know why? No way. You know
No
why?
way H maybe? Yeah, I do like to give you the tough names. It's fun.
No way,
Yeah.
Jose.
No way earns honors this week for taking out standout wild talent number theory in a 3-0 sweep as the entertainers pull out the brooms on mad scientists in a full sweep. This
Nice.
was brought to you by Itachi.
Awesome. Well, congratulations to all of our players of the week. That wraps things up for the players of the week for the series. Once again, congratulations to Sway to Boozosaurus, to Tiger, and to No Way H. Maybe we'll find out how it's said in the future. We'll go with that for now. And we are going to jump with that right into our hero meta report. Let's get that one up on the screen. Um, we've been having some issues lately with numbers reporting accurately. So, I mean, we always advise take it with a grain of salt, but extra grains of salt this week, I suppose. We can tell you the most frequently brought lineup in Hero was Druid, Paladin, Rogue, and Warrior, and we are seeing a massive rise in Paladin bans. 28 Paladin bans last week. I wonder what possibly could cause this. What do you
I
think,
have
guys?
no clue. There's nothing that comes to mind. I'm going to tell you a story real quick. So in my legacy match this week, I know I'm going a little bit off topic. I banned Paladin, even though my opponent didn't bring Paladin, just because that class is so overtuned.
Nice.
Getting
Beautiful.
high rolled, yeah, it really affects you in the mind. So people banning Paladin makes a lot of sense in a format series where getting tilted can make you play actively worse in the following games.
Yeah, it certainly makes a lot more sense, I think, in Hero to see Paladin bans just going crazy with Paladin bans because, Ramp Paladin is a very scary deck, and if it wins once, it stays up, and if it keeps winning, all of a sudden, your week is over. So a lot of players just saying, no, I don't want to deal with that, get it out of here, and definitely, I think we see more Paladin bans in Hero than we would in other series.
That's a common trend with decks like that have that really high roll swing potential. In Hero, time and time again, you'll see their ban numbers go up, even if they're not like the most banned class. They always have high ban numbers, just because a lot of players don't want to feel like they just didn't have a chance in a series if a deck like that can achieve its win condition in that way. So we've seen it throughout THL history, and it is repeating itself here with Ram Paladin.
Yeah, I mean, LHS is all about shutting something down so it doesn't sweep you. And Paladin is one of those decks that's just so hard to reliably shut down. Like, if you look at the matchup spread, nothing really does 60% against it. Like, maybe like an ETC kind of control warrior with Blade Storms or something. But it's very hard. And I don't know if the stats are right, but the top lineup, the Druid, Paladin, Rogue, Warrior, that's a lineup that doesn't ban Paladin. It's banning Warrior, I think. Because of Druids and all those decks kind of lose to Warrior, and it didn't seem to do well. I don't know.
Yeah, catch that
They
win
had
rate.
a real hard
Yeah.
time. Yeah, looking 3-7, 30% win rate and 40% game win rate. Pretty rough. But Demon Hunter, Paladin, Rogue, Warrior looked pretty nice right behind it.
Well, that lineup should ban Paladin, right? Because both iterations of Paladin have a pretty good Demon Hunter matchup.
Well, Chaos Nova is quite the spicy tech for that.
I
don't know how many people were doing that, but
I love me some Chaos
it's
Nova.
not always a lost cause.
I think I would always add one thing. Even though the win rate numbers aren't completely fine, Rogue isn't as uncontestable as it used to be. Rogue has been one of the most common bans and has been really hard to beat, especially in Hero, because it had very few matchups that it lost. And this is not true anymore. A lot of classes that rose up have really good Rogue matchups. So I think Rogue is one of the classes presenting a weakness, especially when combined in some specific lineups.
Yeah, I think that Rogue doesn't do well into Paladin, and it doesn't do well into Warrior right now. Unless it's like a Libram Paladin or something. And when you look at that, it's like, I mean, this deck's still good if it beats other things, but it's not the unstoppable monster.
Yeah.
That it was before.
Yeah, Rogue's lofty status appears to be slipping a bit. But with that, any other things to say about the meta report? Lotus, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I just want to note that Burn Mage was kind of grew a lot this weekend. I'm sure you've all been seeing it around and popping up here and there. So we don't see the Mage numbers yet taking effect this week, but it's something that a lot of us expect would increase for next week.
Yeah, maybe Mage will finally put a positive number in that overall bans column over the course of the season. We'll see what happens next week. Um, for now, we are going to jump into Orange Conference here and do our recap. And what do you know? Once again, top left, the logo, it's still ATL. It has been all season. And they started to slip a little bit. There was a bit of a threat being posed to their top spot by Tonk If You Were Corny. And then, Tonk If You Were Corny had a bye. So easy for ATL to maintain their dominance, keep the top spot at 120 points, followed fairly closely behind by Tonk. And then we have some teams that are possibly in range for a playoff berth. As always, for those of you who aren't familiar, Hero Series, the top 2 teams from each conference will make playoffs, and then we have the remaining top 2 at-large point earners will make it into playoffs. Servants of Yogg-Saron putting up a fight for that. Gungan Us Among, don't be deceived by their lower point total. They do have one less game, and starting to catch fire. They might be able to get themselves back on track. We are going to start off, though, with the match between ATL and Servants of Yogg-Saron. Heatshot, can you break this down for me? What happened in this match?
Well, everyone on ATL ended up bringing Paladin and Warrior. And that was not the case for Servants of Yogg-Saron, which is kind of a surprise, right? Because we were just talking about how those two classes kind of seem to be ruling things. But somehow, yeah, it was quite the upset, I think, with Servants of Yogg-Saron. They, not the front runners of the series, but they still took a win here. Just finding that they won in every seed except for the 3 seed. So that was kind of a shock. And even in the 3 seed, Goose didn't have a Paladin there. So it's kind of, maybe Paladin isn't nearly that bad.
Yeah,
it's a question to ask.
Very interesting results early on. It's possible that Servants 2 just had a game plan against Paladin or didn't think it was good enough for some of the players, who decided either not to bring it or not to ban it. But overall, strong performance by Servants as they pick up some pretty crucial points to try to leverage their way into a possible playoff berth.
Yeah, I think morality comes a lot into play when choosing whether to bring Paladin or not. So these guys took the moral high road and decided not to.
There you go. Yeah, and
also, of all things to choose,
let's not forget the only one who won for ATL was Brushy Tuna, who just really wanted to go out with a bang, I'm sure. And really impressive win over Goose, who I think just recently qualified for a Masters Tour too. So quite the victory there.
How are these matches happening in the 3 seed this season? That's kind
of
my
Hero
Series is always like that.
At some point, like either last season or the season before, it just sort of shifted to that, and now we're just stuck with crazy powerful 2s and 3s and 4s sometimes.
Full on gas.
It's pretty nutty.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on to the next match that we're highlighting here from Orange Conference, a Gungan Us Among versus Dark Side of Cthulhu. Dark Side, unfortunately, appears to be all but eliminated from playoffs with this loss, and Agua getting also some pretty important points. It's not over yet. If they can go on a tear, they've got a chance to eke their way into playoffs. Lemur, tell me about this match. What happened?
Yeah, so it's definitely not over yet for Agua. As RoboCats is spamming in chat, they are on a winning streak. They are on a tear currently, and if they can continue this tear, they can get there. Dardar Binks picking up his first win of the season over Donde. Really, really important in this victory that they had. The one thing Agua needs to really propel them over the edge is that they need Scritch to start winning. I have never seen a team with 250 PR players on it. And while being 0-6 certainly propelled to that point, if Scritch can start winning and turn this season around with the rest of them, they can do it. I believe in them as long as they can get a fire lit under their asses and get started.
Yeah, it's going to be a really interesting playoff race, I think, for these final 2 spots. What we're going to see, I think, across the board in each conference is the top 2 teams in each feel like they're pretty solidly in position to make playoffs, but the other at-larges, it's it's a complete, just jam-packed race here, so it's gonna be fun. But this wraps up orange for us, and we are gonna move on to purple. Purple, once again, seems to be a theme with Hero. We're just seeing the same team in some conferences, just leading wire to wire. Vote of some confidence, 130 points, undefeated record, staying up at the very top of the conference and getting another victory here. Closely followed by was closely followed. Dad Legend was on a bye this week, so they didn't have an opportunity to close that gap a little bit. They will have an opportunity when Vote of Some Confidence hits their bye. But still, fairly close in points per week and total points as a contender for second. And then Tan Pam's Fair and Balanced Feet of Cthulhu, not too far apart from each other in points, but it's going to be a struggle, I think, for any of these teams to make playoffs with the way the points are currently standing across Hero Series. We are going to start off with this match. Vote of Some Confidence versus Fair and Balanced. Heatshock, since you're my teammate and you and I both played in this match, I'm sure you can provide a little bit of insight in this one. Break this one down for me here.
Well, I think that we've kind of qualified for playoffs now, and we may not have brought our best this week. I kind of have to wonder, but I was defeated. I had won several matches in a row, but I was taken down by Bomb Warrior, even though my lineups had several sticky fingers. I couldn't find them, and then
Oh, no.
Hat got taken down, swept by Azu of all things with Rogue and Broom Paladin to stop it. He couldn't do it, and then it just we ended up getting there, thankfully, with our 3, 4, and 5 seeds picking up the win. But it was a little bit closer than I think it maybe should have been for us. And Fair and Balanced showing that they still want to fight to do as well as they can.
Yeah, there was unfortunately a DQ in the 5 seed,
Mhm.
which swung the outcome of the match, but overall, just a very close match. Pretty closely contested throughout most of these games. Um, Other than, Hat might tell you that the 3 games weren't close, but the other the other ones that were played were pretty back and forth. So it was an exciting match to play, and props to Fair and Balanced for making it close. Next match we've got is Tan Pam's Surf Slam versus Feet of Cthulhu. And Tan Pam's, they won a title in Hero just a couple seasons back, and they've got enough points that they can't be totally counted out yet if they hit a hot streak. Lotus, can you talk to me about this match? What happened here?
Sure. Tenpen the Surf Slam got to slam down Cthulhu's feet.
Oh, Lotus, pun of the week.
Beat Valera with a 3-0. Seems to be a DQ, but I am not actually sure. JR lost to Nails 2-3. Oz, always a strong player in the 3, bringing up TPSS by winning against Ponder Free Hong Kong 3-2. Shu trying to clutch it for Feet of Cthulhu, but it wasn't enough as Clarity probably got another DQ win against Cat. So strong showing for TPSS, but more of the story is please don't DQ.
Yeah. We unfortunately had kind of a rash of DQs this week. I blame the Super Bowl, but maybe players scheduled for Sunday and then didn't realize, oh wait, there's this big event that I maybe want to watch. But regardless, Tan Pams gets a big victory here, some crucial points for their playoff chances.
Yeah.
Fair and Balanced, not too far behind, although it does look uh, pretty rough for them right now. Actually, they're on a bye this upcoming week too, so it looks even worse. And Feet of Cthulhu also not too likely to make playoffs. You never can say what can happen if teams put up 20 pointers, but tall order for these teams. I think our playoff contenders are mainly at the top in orange and crowded in teal. So we're going to move on to teal here. Put this one up on the screen. There is a lot of stuff going on in teal. And the bottom team in teal, they may be 2-4 with 71 points, but if you'll hear their captain tell it, this is the team that is definitely going to make playoffs because they're on a 2-game winning streak. They just are coming off a bye, and they're feeling ready to take it to the rest of the conference. I'll let Lemur tell you about that in just a moment. But before we do, we've got at the top, as always, Ask HS, 103 points. They've got their logo in the top left. They've been holding the top spot for the majority of this season. We've got Dab on them close behind with 99. No pros here with 92. F2L Black, important to note, even though they're at 83 and behind no pros here, they have more points per week because their bye came at a weird time, and now they have no buys left, looking like a strong contender themselves. And then, of course, bringing up the rear, Lemur, what's going on with transfer students?
Well, you see, okay, so we just got off of a bye week. Very, very exciting on a two match winning streak, which can't be understated. Chaser 6-0 since the balance changes. Just putting that out there, 6-0 hasn't dropped a game yet. And Tempo Rainad just tweeted, might stream a little Boomer Stone, tagging the classic format on his Twitter account, which will light enough of a fire under our asses that this is a 20-point week easy. 100%. Raynad coming back to Hearthstone? Are you kidding me? It's sealed. We're getting third in the conference, making playoffs for sure.
Somehow influences transfer students. Love to hear it. Well, with that spicy take, can you also walk me through the matchup that we have posted as the first one? Ask HS versus No Pros here. I'm very interested to hear your insights.
Yeah, for sure. So Ask HS obviously has been in first for a very long time in the Teal Conference, 103 points, but did drop here to NPH, No Pros here. After No Pros had a not so great week against transfer students, they brought it back here, winning the 13-12 over Ask HS, which very, very impressive, puts them pretty squarely in third place. F2L and transfer students have to make up a lot of ground. Correct me if I'm wrong. Do NPH?
Sorry, say that again. You cut out for me.
Does NPH have a bye week left or no? I don't think
I
they
think
do.
so. It says
They
they're
do?
3-4 and like F2L's 3-3, so they must have one
So
more.
they have one bye week left. So as long as they can stay the course with that bye coming into play, they should be in a very, very good spot to make playoffs. This match itself, you saw strong showings out of Skittles, Disco, and Quaz, which is great because I trust Posca and PWE to have wins under their belt. So team that probably would make playoffs if they weren't in a division with transfer students.
Yeah, NPH, our perennial playoff contender that somehow hasn't found a playoff win, but has been an absolute beast in the regular season in most of the seasons that they've played. Would probably be a surprise to see them not make playoffs, but that is certainly on the table this season. It'll be interesting to watch these final weeks. And last up for Teal, our recap for this week was Dab on him versus F2L Black, another very close match. Lotus, can you walk me through this match here? What happened?
Dab on him versus F2L Black. This was an important match because both of these teams have taken their buys already. And so they need the room. Dab on it seems to be one of the best teams in Teal right now, definitely the best in points per week. And it kept its domain. Baze won 3-0 against Itachi. Boo won 3-1 against Hockey. Rebob won 3-1 against Astrofrog for F2O Black. And Rod the Zombie won for F2O Black, but that wasn't enough because Doohan clutched the last points against Chronic, winning 13-11, which is actually a weird score. Usually the gap, or usually the high number is a little bit higher than a 13, but we're seeing it for both of these.
Yeah, just really tough contests between these teams. I think just Teal in general is really close to each other in skill level, a bunch of really talented players, and it's just kind of like this gauntlet that everyone's thrown into, and they all just have to duke it out and see who comes out on top in what looks like it's going to be a messy finish for Teal. I have no idea, other than the top two, who is likely to make it out of this pairing here. But we will see. We'll find out, of course, shortly.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's several sweeps or near sweeps this week in Teal. I was looking from these two matches we have here. How like maybe there's one deck that just seems to be running away with the series if it doesn't get stopped. I don't know if maybe that's Warrior. There's not a ton of Warrior bans, or Rogue maybe, but
Yeah.
that's definitely interesting that there weren't a lot of 3/2s.
Teal actually
true.
this season has had a exactly happening as well. So it also might be a little bit with the players as well. Swept or be swept is the mentality over here in the Teal conference.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and we could see even more changes in the meta that will, possibly shift this further in the weeks to come. There are some maybe slightly less played decks as of late that are on the rise, so some interesting changes possibly to shake things up, but we will see. With that, that does conclude our hero recap of the matches that were played. And next we have for you our player power rankings for Hero Series Week 8. Let's get them up on the screen. Uh, what more can you say about Turtle? Oh man, Turtle has been destroying all of Hero. Turtle leads our player power rankings once again at 6-0 with 35 PR. Mr. Python 7-0 with 32 in the second spot. We've got Isocles at number 3 at 5-1. Brushy Tuna number 4 at 6-1. Jimfalos at 6-1 in the 5 spot. Hockey Boys finally gets his first loss and drops down a bit in the 6th spot at 5-1. Dewin in the 7 at 5-1. Risen in the 8, 5-2. We've got a new appearance on this list, Robocats 5-1 in the 9 spot. And number 10, it's our very own guest for tonight. It's Heat Shock at 5-2. And those are your top
Made that
10
top 10.
player power rankings. Of course, our honorable mentions to follow. Dr. Bomb D, 5-2, just barely out of the top 10. Some scrub named Ron Mexico at 5-2. Matty Ebbs at 5-2. Neji Boston at 5-2. And Boozosaurus makes his first appearance on the honorable mentions at 4-1. Congratulations to all these players on the player power rankings. As always, you guys know this is rigged. Donde rigs it. Don't know how, but he's rigging it every time. You can spam the rigged in the chat, but just remember, if you want to make an appearance on this list, just keep winning.
Or you can sub.
Buy your way on the list with a sub. Easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair, right? They're willing to pay for it. I don't know.
Yeah, we can throw them in honorable mentions.
It'd be interesting to
Yeah.
see on these power rankings how the seed affects everything. Like, are people moving like up or down, and is that going to change where how their power rankings change? Because like someone like Jim is like an incredible 5 seed, right? And he's
Yeah, it's all
like,
based
what
on
happens
the.
when you put him in the 3? He might still do pretty well.
He very well could.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's all based on that PAR as far as how you get ranked, like what the ultimate determining factor is, because sometimes we have records that are higher than other records, and yet they're below someone, which is why we always talk about it being rigged. There's points above replacement taken from the baseball stat, and to be honest with you, I don't understand it. I just post it. Donde writes them up. I don't even know if he understands it either, but it is what it is. Those are your power
The
rankings.
math checks out.
Any last words on Hero before we move on to our recap for Wild?
Don't think so.
Sweet. Let's jump into it. Let's get that Wild meta report up on the screen. I have a healthy lack of trust for all of our meta reports lately because they seem to be reporting a little bit funky. But the main takeaways that we can kind of look at from Wild here: Mage, Priest, Rogue, Warlock, our most frequently brought lineup. We've got tons of Mage and Priest bans as always. Warlock with 13 bans, and Warrior slightly on the rise this last week with 11 bans. Our total banned classes still dominating the field, of course, Mage and Warlock and Priest.
So important thing to note here, with it being Super Bowl Sunday, like you're saying, anyone who played on Sunday virtually had to ban Warrior if it was Odd Warrior because they couldn't let the match go that long. So that might
True.
cause a little bit of an uptick in the
Smart.
Warrior bans this week. But I will say this meta report looks pretty interesting. Mage Priest Rogue Warlock being the most popular makes a lot of sense with the meta reports that came out this last week for Wild, that being Tempo Storm or VS that you were looking at. It looked like that would be the best lineup. So it performing a little bit under what it was expected surprises me. But as well, the lineup that performed the best was the Druid Mage Priest Warlock, where that Druid can be pretty hard for the more aggressive decks to get under if the Druid can get their 5 mana summon 7 minion 1/5 taunt card that I forget the name of.
Yeah, wow, a 5-0 for Druid Mage
Yeah,
Priest Warlock.
kind
Pretty
of
impressive.
crazy. With it being such an aggro meta, that lineup banning Priest makes a lot of sense, and then just playing into the aggro as well as possible.
Absolutely. And we don't have Marty with us this week. He will be back next week to really break down some archetypes that we're seeing in the wild meta. So we're going to leave you in suspense for now on what the wild meta will bring for you until next Tuesday as we move on to the recap for the Green Conference. I'm going to get this up on the screen here, and it's the same thing we've been seeing all season from Green. Everyone's a winner is completely unfair. This team just refuses to stop winning games. It's unreal. They're at 121 points. They're at 20 points per week. They've played difficult teams. It doesn't matter. They steamroll them all. This looks like the odds-on favorite for the championship. It is a very scary team, followed by our defending champions, F2L Viridian at 104, Hair Club and Made in Heaven very close behind, with Patch's Payback actually in a tie with Made in Heaven. As a reminder for those of you who don't follow or may have forgotten, Wild is determined in its playoff race by the top 4 teams in each conference making it. So if the playoffs started today, we'd be looking at everyone's a winner F2L, Hair Club, and whoever wins the tiebreaker between Maiden Heaven, Patch's Payback. Our last 2 teams, the Entertainers, not too far out, and Wild THL Fanatics, looking like they got a mountain to climb to work their way into contention. We are going to start with Hair Club versus the amazingly named twitch.tv/MTG Succulent. Lemur, can you break this match down for me? What happened here?
Oh, you know I'm always ready to break down twitch.tv
I know, that's why I
/MTG
call on you.
Succulent. Absolutely. So this was a really, really good match coming from the side of Hair Club. We got 2 sweeps and 2 3-1s, getting them a whole lot of points this week. The only person losing is Burnt on top, going down to Maxi Vaughn, but Maxi's been playing super, super well this season at a 5-1 record. Makes perfect sense. Huge week for Hair Club. It put them pretty squarely in 3rd place, and with it being top 4 to get into playoffs in Wild, being in 3rd place is not a bad place to be, but they are hotly followed by Maiden Heaven and Patch's Payback. So they definitely have the road cut out for them to stay in that spot, but great week to put them up there.
I'm very interested. Maxibon is so far the only person I've seen play Murloc Paladin. I don't play Wild, but is that deck actually good?
No,
No.
that
Not as
deck
far as I know.
does not generally exist. It is a favorite by a couple of players, and it definitely can do the Allura high roll thing. So you can definitely win and steal games with it. So it's not the worst bring in the world, that's for sure.
True. Well, from what I know of Maxibon too, that is a player who could bring probably pretty much anything and get victories.
Yeah, and do
So,
super well. It's
yeah.
like doing with Hunter.
Yeah. But yeah, big win for Hair Club, moving their way up in the standings and fighting for that playoff spot. Next, I also want to talk about another massive win here, the Entertainers versus Mad Scientists. Heechok, tell me about this match here. This was just a massacre, basically. What went down?
Yeah, it was a blowout. It looks like every single player on the Entertainers won. And there were a lot of priest bans, some mage bans, and it seems like Mad Scientist was not banning mage and priest very much. So maybe that off-meta strategy didn't work out for them. They did not even get that many 3/2s. They got a couple. But yeah, they just got destroyed. And surprisingly, the entertainers didn't really have mages. It was the Mad Scientists who decided to bring it. But yeah, for all 5 players won for entertainers. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, impressive victory, and this is huge. Entertainers was pretty much down at the very bottom of the conference for Green. With this many points, they've really narrowed the gap for what they need to overcome in order to keep competing for a playoff spot. There's still plenty of time to catch up to some of those other teams in Wild, so big victory for the Entertainers. Going to be interesting to see if they might be able to keep that momentum going. That will do it for the Green Conference as we move on to Brown. And for the first time all show tonight, we have a new leader in the conference. This is the second consecutive week that this has happened in Brown as well. A Noyo team had taken the lead from what used to be a stranglehold by Seas of Cheese. Now Hey Loser is on a tear, and they have taken the top spot. They're sitting there at 101 points, coming off another big victory, closely followed by a Noyo team in the 2 spot. Bash Bros moving on up to the 3, and former, far and away leader of the conference, Seas of Cheese, falling back down to 4. Granted, they would still make playoffs if playoffs started today, so not in a dangerous position yet. Seas of Cheese is followed by some teams that look to really need to make up some ground with the spectacularly named twitch.tv/MTG Succulent. You're welcome for the promo, as always.
Yep.
Mad Scientists and
We'll
Ghosts
host
of
you after the show.
Fellscream's Past. So we're going to start off first with Hey Loser versus Patches Payback. Heatchok, can you talk to me about this match here? This was a pretty close one.
Yeah, it was close, but it turns out having a GM on your team can give you quite the edge. Hey Loser took the victory with Rami staying undefeated with a 3-1 over Brushy. And then they also picked up wins in the 3, 4, and 5 seeds with Skittles, Ronnie, and Pasca picking up wins. Only loss was Memnarch to Dirty Mike.
Yeah, poor Brushy Tuna just having to face GM Rami in one of his final THL games before he leaves for like a year or so. But, I guess in some ways it's kind of a cool way to go out too. You get to play a
Oh, for
GM on your
sure.
way out and, just get demolished. These things happen.
I played Rami once in pro and I got demolished, so it's
Yeah, I
it's
played
at least a fun
Rami.
experience.
I
Yeah.
played Rami in Wild last season, and he reverse swept my ass, and I was like, "Oh God, that has to be the worst way to lose to a GM."
Hey,
You're
nice
so
getting
close, but
2
so
wins off
far.
him though. That's a solid flex.
But yeah, this match was super important for Hey Loser to really propel them into that first place spot. 6 points over Patches Payback is nothing to snuff at. And with them being in first, followed by a Noyo team, they're pretty poised to make playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely they are. And it was looking kind of dicey for them early in the season. They were middle of the pack, maybe 5th place. But just over the last few weeks, Hey Loser has been picking up points in bunches, and they've worked their way to the top of the conference, as many expected they would when the season started. Next, we've got a Noyo team. I Man, they keep rubbing it in my face. I hated on this team early, and I thought they weren't the real deal, and they have just been proving me wrong so consistently. Yes, they lost this last week, but that's an 11-15. Really close loss to what seems to be the far and away like undisputed best team in Wild right now, and everyone's a winner. This was really close. Lemur, walk me through this matchup here. What happened between an Oyo team and everyone's a winner?
Yeah, absolutely. First, I'm going to say that a Noyo team is facing Seas of Cheese this week, so that's another loss in the books for them. However, they did have a really close loss to Everyone's a Winner, with the only 2 picking up wins on their team being Duin and MTG Squirrel. But we know how good everyone's a winner is. Like everyone knows how good everyone's a winner is. So losing to them by 4 points on your way to being second in your conference is nothing to cough at, basically. Matt Tat, unfortunately, losing in his wild debut to Absolute, getting subbed in this week. But if that sub doesn't happen, hey, maybe a Noyo team wins this week, which is something that is really, really interesting to think about in the grand scheme of tournament play that we have here, and especially going into playoffs, what that could mean, ramifications. If everyone's a winner were to drop in playoffs, there would be huge shockwaves sent through the wild community.
Yeah, absolutely. Right now, this team just looks almost invincible. So I'm excited to see, how much they can keep this going. I definitely think we're looking at some very clear cut, uh, like a top three in Wild right now in Hey Loser, Everyone's a Winner, and F2L Viridian. There are other very strong teams as well, but these three have definitely looked to be the most impressive so far, and we will keep a close eye on this in the weeks to come. That wraps things up for Brown for now. I know Lemur is chomping at the bit to talk more about Seas of Cheese in the future, so hopefully you guys can get a victory so you can start bragging on your team again. But hey, at least you're still in playoff
Oh yeah,
contention.
yeah, don't worry. We are absolutely in playoff contention. We also faced Marty's team this week, so we had a really, really rough,
True.
rough week there. However, if you look at our overall spread, we had so many 2-3 losses, it was ridiculous.
Yeah,
We
if Marty was on the show this week, I probably would have put that one on the highlight just to have you two go at
Yeah.
it.
No, yeah, absolutely. He
Missed
beat me
opportunities.
3-2. It was really, really good. We had a great series. I actually, before the match started, messaged him and said, "All right, are you ready to beat me 3-2?"
Oh
And that is
wow.
exactly what happened. So
Maybe
I am
call it in your
apparently a
favor next time.
yep. I'm apparently a prophet. So with that being said, Seas of Cheese is winning wild. Moving on.
Oh, smart.
We
Smart.
can go to the next conference.
All right. So, well,
Yeah.
we're going to put player power rankings up on the screen first here as we recap our power rankings for Wild Series Week 6. We're going to start off with a new number 1. It is JJJ. That's 6 J's, 6
6J.
wins, 6-0, 25 PAR, moving up to the number 1 spot. Impressive showing so far. I think now the only remaining undefeated, no, there's 2 undefeated Wild players, the other one being Rami. Um, Following JJJ, we have Battle Tagger in the number 2 spot at 5-1. We've got Quake Lord in the 3 at 5-1. Maxibon 5-1 in the 4. Rami 5-0 in the 5. Dewin 5-1 in the 6. Corbett 5-1 in the 7 spot. Wildcard bringing it in at number 8 at 5-1. Otters 4-2 in the number 9, and rounding out our top 10, it is Absolute at 4-2. Those are your top 10 player power rankings for Wild Series as of week 6. And that's not all. We have some honorable mentions. The names aren't too hard this week, but I'm still going to turn it over to you, Lotus, because Lotus, you also have some announcements for us for some wild content changes. So go ahead and take it away with the honorable mentions, and then let's hear some special news.
Sure. Honorable mentions, we have MTG Squirrel 5-1, Dirty Mike 4-2, Peanuts 4-2, Neji Boston 5-1, and finally Rice Bowl 5-1. Really, really good records. This Wild is just so insane this season, and looking at how insane the community has been embracing the Wild series, Saturday Schoolstone is now going. We're doing our best to make it a Wild only show. So Marty, as well as many, many other casters, are going to join us each a small group of casters each week, and they're going to bring you all the Wild excitement. We have the plan is to actually have 30 minutes in the beginning to review Wild series, all the big things that happened so far this week, and then go over some crazy matches. This week we have Slate versus Loomers scheduled at 2 p.m. and Jailstorm versus Nate Wolf TCG scheduled at 4 p.m. If you would like your wild match, to be featured at 3 p.m., you can DM me or Marty, and we would be happy to have you.
Nice.
By the way, I'm winning on the stream 3-2, just so you know.
Oh yeah, you got to make sure you say that as much
I
as
have to
possible.
correct the prediction this time.
Yeah, use your use your prediction skills. There you go. But there you have it. Wild gets a very welcoming home in Saturday's Schoolstone. Congratulations to all of these players who have made it to the player power rankings list for this week. As we always say, if you want to make it on this list, doesn't matter if it's rigged, just keep winning. Any other things we want to say about the Wild series before? Actually, we're not going to go into Legacy yet because we do, of course, have a quick commercial for you. But any more things on Wild before we move over to that?
Yeah, I'm very, very excited for the playoff picture that's developing in Wild. It looks to be very, very competitive. And while there are two top teams that seem to be the favorites going into it, it could really go any way in the playoffs, which is very exciting to look at.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. So let's do a quick rapid fire commercial before we move on over to our Legacy series recap. Um, as always, we're short on time. Got to do it fast. Hey there, Twitch viewers. Have you subscribed to Team Hearth Legends yet? No? Then make today the day to be a legend yourself and subscribe to our channel. This subscription enables the THL team to help cover the various costs of operating our website as well as improve the quality of our streams and content to our viewers. If you have Amazon Prime or Twitch Prime, you can actually subscribe to this channel for free. Subscribers get a THL emoticon as well as the lovely THL chat badge. So hit that heart button and keep the notifications on to make sure you catch our team broadcasting live. We appreciate each and every one of you. Special note to our viewers, check out THL's other social media points of interest, our website, teamhearthlegends.com. Follow us on Twitter, THL_HS. Join us on Discord, Team Hearth Legends. Check out our THL POW podcast for power rankings for all series wherever you find your podcasts. The true Hearth Legend himself, Saku, continues to post all of our videos on our YouTube channel. Just search for Team Hearth Legends to catch everything previously recorded. You're, of course, watching us on our Twitch channel live, twitch.tv/Team Hearth Legends, or possibly on our YouTube channel in the future. And for all you THL fanatics out there, there are THL shows every single day of the week. You can't go wrong tuning in at any time for some amazing Hearthstone-related content. Now back to the good part.
Ron, one of these days I'm going to sub in twitch.tv /MTG Succulent and see if you say it instead of Team Hearth Legends.
You know, they did that to me on Saloon once.
Oh, they did? Oh, perfect.
They put in like a totally unexpected thing, and I had to power through and read it. It happens. All right, but we're gonna jump right on into Legacy. We always have so much content to cover for you with so many series. So we got the Legacy meta report up on the screen for you here. As we mentioned before, some technical difficulties lately with the Legacy, well, with all the meta reports. We do know Druid, Paladin, Rogue, Warrior, the most frequently brought lineup with a monster win rate. And we have massive bans for Paladin, 53 Paladin bans last week, 31 Warrior bans. We've got a very clear 1 and 2 in enemies identified by the Legacy series. And when we look at total bans, we've got some holdovers from Shaman pre-nerf. We've got Rogue was banned quite a bit up until recently. Paladin already had a decent amount of bans and now very much on the rise. And of course, Warrior, our most banned class. What do you guys think of this meta here?
Well, it seems like it's the same 4 decks that people were playing in Hero, right? Same lineup as the same 4 classes. But
Pretty
it
much
worked completely differently if that win rate is accurately showing that, right? It seems like you can not get swept by, if Paladin wins, it's like, oh well.
Yeah,
right?
It just gets through once and you're like, okay, it's fine.
Yeah, without that danger of the sweep, it seems like this lineup is a lot stronger.
Yeah. I think not only this lineup is a lot stronger without the sweep danger, it's just in Legacy a lot of times if you bring the best classes, it works well. It's not the same in Hero because of targeting and because of very interesting patterns, but in Legacy, these are just very solid classes. A lot of people would argue these are the 4 best classes last week. So just tends to work over there.
Yeah. And who knows, we might see more meta shakeups in the weeks to come as well. There are some uh, changes maybe coming, as we've mentioned briefly. It's going to be interesting to see how this shakes out, but this is the last of the Legacy regular season. So this meta report we have for you on the screen, this is the final real Legacy meta report we're going to see, really, because there's going to be just tiny sample sizes when we get to playoffs as far as what players are bringing for
Let's go
playoffs.
playoffs. Yeah. Let's get some playoffs started.
But yeah, let's not spend any more time on this meta report. Let's jump into the Gold Conference and talk about playoffs. We've got your teams. Your teams are set. The top four, Foolish Madmen, Always Top Deck Lethal, F2L Red, and Golden Common BTW. These are your four playoff teams from the Legacy Series that have made it out of the Gold Conference. And oh my God, I just got to start with Foolish Madmen. What an unbelievable season. 142 points, 7-0,
So
20 points per week. That's not a typo. That's 20.29 points per week. This is absurd.
Yeah, it absolutely is absurd. And I mean, the only saving grace they could possibly have had this season, outside of doing so well as they possibly did, is I think it would really push them over the edge if Diamond wasn't their captain. But since he's their captain as well as on the team, we could have seen them in the 160 point range. But looking at it now with Diamond as the captain, they're 142 points, still number one in the division going into playoffs, and they are the people that we are looking to eradicate.
I'm gonna make sure Diamond knows that you said that and see if I can use that as leverage to get him back on the show. We love Diamond. He's been a host on this show before. He had some stuff come up for school, so he couldn't participate too much, but maybe Lemur may have provoked him into rejoining us. Who knows?
That's the hope. Come back, Diamond. We miss you.
With that, we are going to jump into the first match here. Heatshock, can you break this down for me? Foolish Madmen versus Golden Common BTW.
Yeah, it was a very strong performance for Foolish Madmen. They won 18-7. Dardar defeating PWE with a 3-0 sweep. Always just in time, maintaining his undefeated record with another 3-0 sweep over No Glocto. And then Jimbo and Diamond winning in the 4 and 5 to lock up 18 points. The only defeat was Automated Button, but he still got 2, so it's not even a bad week for him.
Yeah.
It's really impressive to see a team with a 7-0 and 2 6-1s. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, they've just been doing it all season long. I have this this logo for the team that leads the conference in the top left, and after week 1, I pretty much just could have just locked this and never touched it again because Foolish Madmen just ran away with this conference. We have some very strong contenders in this conference too, and a very important match that was played here for Golden Common just to at least maintain enough points to keep their distance and stay in that playoff spot that they had locked up previously. Another big win coming from F2L Red versus Standard THL Degenerates. I think they were most likely in, but if they didn't come up with at least a solid week, there was a chance they could have been crowded out. If they had gotten 20 pointed by Standard THL Degenerates, for example, they would have been bounced and that team would have made it. So still pretty relevant as far as the match overall. Lotus, can you break down this match for me in the matchups here? What happened in this playoff preview, I guess?
Sure. F2L Red versus Standard THL Degenerates was perfect chance for F2L Red to squeeze by. And, well, not to squeeze by, but to get the third place in playoff. Ree Bobson lost to Sergeant Teabag with a 3-0 sweep, but Snake swept back for F2L with a 3-0 sweep over Electric Sheep City. Myanodon, you give me such hard names. It's so hard. Myanodon Mangon won 3-2 against Draco Cat. The Rotted Zombie beat Corrodon 3-2, and Slad beat Quaz 3-2. With this string of 3-2 victories, F2L Red finished strong against standard THL variants and put itself in a really good position, but they're facing my favorite team in the next week in Legacy.
Ooh, nice. Also, just so you know, I do probably spend about 10 minutes of prep time each week trying to identify the difficult names for Lotus to read off. It is worth every minute.
100%.
Mhm.
I'm
But
sure.
yeah,
No,
but that will do it for gold. Heachok, did you want to say something?
I was just gonna say you're pointing out how F2L Red just needed a solid week, and you can see literally all of them brought Paladin and Warrior.
Yeah.
They just wanted to get on the board and make sure they squeezed into that playoffs.
No messing around. Smart moves from F2L Red. Bring the best classes, bring your A game and make sure that you lock up that playoff spot. They absolutely did, and have been rewarded. Your top four, once again, for gold: Foolish Madmen, Always Top Deck Lethal, F2L Red, and Golden Common BTW. And with that wrapping up gold, we will move on to the Red Conference. And we have your playoff teams. This top four, it's Team Trees. Once again, holding that top spot. They took it over maybe 3 weeks back and just held it strongly throughout the remainder of the season. Team Trees makes the playoffs. Dirty Mike and the boys, another strong season from them, coming in second place in the conference. And a very interesting match we're going to get to in a moment, a tie between our 3 and 4 in the playoff race. Murgle Reborn and Swallows That Follows, both making it into the playoffs. Neither team bouncing the other to open up the door for someone else. Prep is for rogues. Oh, I'm so sad. But these things happen. We actually got jumped by Sir Finley's too, and they had a tiebreaker. It's fine. But very nice job from these top four. We're going to start off with Team Trees versus Dirty Mike and the boys. Lemur, talk to me about this matchup here.
Yeah, absolutely. So overall this week in the Red Conference, it was just slacking hard hitting Hearthstone gameplay. It was a 14-12 with Team Tree and the boys. Also incredibly interesting to note that all four of the playoff teams played each other this week, which is something that is very terrifying in the last week of the season because you do not want to get smacked by anyone. You want to keep it as close as possible, and both teams ended up doing that. But Team Trees, they did it a little bit better than Dirty Mike and the boys this week, coming out with a 14-12 win. Trito 2 is still 7-0, picking up the win over Sorlos this week. We're going to see how long the undefeated streak can continue. Two Fly got his first loss this week, unfortunately, against Lefty 2-1-1-1.
That one was on stream too. That was an interesting match, but very big congratulations to Trito 2 pulling off the undefeated season. I think we had one other always just in time, did it in the gold conference, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm. Super big. And you're in a class of elite Hearthstone players without or throughout THL history. If you can complete the undefeated season, not many have done it.
And I think we also have some undefeateds in silver that we'll get to in a moment. But yeah, just really impressive seasons. Well done by Team Trees. They pretty much had playoffs locked and went out there and just showed up with a big win anyway. Dirty Mike and the boys picking up crucial points, making sure they weren't losing that spot to anybody. And now Murgle Reborn versus Swallows That Follows. This was a very interesting one. 13-13. Both teams in a precarious position. They could have been edged out by a different team. If it was a blowout one way or another, this was going to result in one of these teams getting bounced, but it was just a straight up tie. Lotus, talk to me about this matchup here. What went down?
This was a match that happened.
Nice. Solid analysis. All right, on to silver.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Oh, don't worry, I'll take over if you don't want it, Lotus.
I am a member of the Swallows That Follows Discord, so I could talk about it a little bit.
Please, Heachok, please enlighten.
think that once Swallows That Falls figured out they had the points to make playoffs, they memed it up a little bit. I know AV's Shaman maybe wasn't the Shaman you might expect to face. Certainly the case for a few other decks here. But it was definitely. I don't think that they brought their best this week, and I think that they're going to be extremely dangerous if they still put up 13 points this week.
Yeah, I will enlighten everyone on my lineup this week real quick. It was an obviously special. He sent me every deck list. It worked out incredibly well taking the 3-2 over G-Kick. Like I said, I banned Paladin because fuck that class. Even if it's not in the lineup, it still shouldn't get played. So I luckily grabbed the 3-2 over G-Kick in a very, very close match. But let me tell you about my fun deck list that I got to bring this week. Obviously recommended in his infinite wisdom, a warrior deck simply called Yeah Warrior, that had it was essentially a Ringmaster Watley deck, but it had all rush minions and ETC. So we weren't ETC OTKing, but we were just smacking you for a lot of damage with ETC and rush minions. Then we had a Guardian Animals Druid list with Clowns and Survival of the Fittest. So we went back like 2 metas. We had a list that I unfortunately did not get to play, which was the Dual Paladin list he sent me that looked like a lot of fun. That got banned out by G-Kick. But my personal favorite deck was a OTK Hunter deck that I got to bring this week that included playing a 1-mana Young Dragonhawk to try to kill my opponent with Tundra Rhino. So the last game of the series, I played a Tundra Rhino and then a 7/7 Young Dragonhawk and just OTK.
Nice.
Yeah, pretty fun.
People give it credit for.
I'm sure that provides plenty of solace to the players of Sir Finley Squires. Prep is for rogues, not pilots, and ticketus punchers to know that the teams above them were taking this so very, very.
Oh
seriously.
no! Don't worry. We were taking it seriously until we were mathematically clinched.
Right.
After we were mathematically clinched, because I played at 10 p.m. on Sunday.
Yeah,
So
no, it's actually it makes strategic sense to no longer play seriously once you've clinched playoffs, because this could be a team that you're rematching, so you don't necessarily want to give some stuff away. So I like it.
Yep,
It's
no
actually
information.
Cool.
Yeah, obviously really is a fantastic deck builder. He made Encounters, Flow, Gadgets, and Mage before people were even playing Mizaki in it. Like,
yeah.
This is 200 IQ sometimes.
Yeah. Other times, Smock Druid, but Avi's gonna do Avi things, and we love him for it. With that, we are gonna move on to the Silver Conference and do our recap here. Let's put Silver up on the screen. Your playoff teams for Silver. We've got a new leader, by the way. Meme Dream Team did lose their top spot. It is Flame Pimps in the number 1 spot for Silver, closing out the season with 125 points and a stellar 6-1 record, followed by Meme Dream Team, who held the top spot for the majority of the season. Dad Legend right behind, and Amber Flight Gaming squeezing out a very, very close victory to make it into playoffs. I also just want to note congratulations as well to the undefeated players from Silver. Your Mumked went 7-0 this season in Silver, and RoboCats just killing it. RoboCats 4-0 in Silver. Didn't play quite so many games, but still undefeated is undefeated. Congratulations to those players, and congratulations to those playoff teams. We're going to start off with Flame Pimps versus Dad Legend. Heatshot, can you take me through this match?
Yeah, sure. So Flame Plimps took a fairly narrow victory here, although they had a very good position in playoffs, so maybe they didn't need to bring their best. But yeah, Valera taking the 3-1 victory over Zabe, one of the strongest players in Pro Series. And then your Mumkid continuing his 7-0 streak, defeating Taco Cat. And then we have Goose sweeping Yellow Dart, Ducharmo beating Boolean with a narrow victory, and Diddle beating Clarity with a narrow victory too. And with the 3-0 and the 3-1, Flame Pimps got a good 5-point lead at the end of that week.
Yeah, and look to be just enough, along with Meme Dream Team, possibly not taking this week too seriously, having already locked up playoffs. But they did lose their top spot because of it, so seeding can sometimes
Yeah,
be fairly relevant. Congrats to the
seeding
Flame
matters a
Pimps
lot.
for a big victory there.
Something real quick. The importance of disqualifications was put on full display in this conference for playoff contention, and this is why DQs can be so bad. Is that well played on Dream Team? They were already clinched, and he DQ'd out, giving the points over to Amberflight Gaming, who without those points, I believe, would they have been 1 point ahead, so they still would have made it, but it was really close.
Yeah, so the DQ win. Let's talk about this since it is our next match to cover. Meme Dream Team versus Amberflight Gaming. Amberflight put up a really incredible week through
Yeah,
4 games,
huge.
picking up massive points, and they were literally 1 point away from clinching playoffs instead of Hearthstone Academy. Unfortunately, the way things played out, we did have a DQ in the 5 seed that gave the victory to Amberflight Gaming, but all Amberflight Gaming's 5 seed had to do was get a single game
Yeah.
victory. If they lost 3-1, Amberflight still makes playoffs. So I'd say it's fairly unlikely that a sweep was going to happen, but Well Played is a very good player. Could have happened and could have changed our playoff teams. HSA would have made it in on a tiebreaker, I think, over Amberflight.
Yeah.
Specifically only if the sweep had happened in the 5 in favor of Meme Dream Team.
Yeah, so it's more of not knowing what would have happened than it is taking anything away from Amberflight Gaming, because they played fantastic. They played super, super good this week. 100% deserving to make playoffs.
Yep, backs
It's
against
just
the
it.
wall, and
Yeah,
a nice boost from Hearthstone Academy, who picked up a big win over Hot Zilfs to knock Hot Zilfs down in the standings. The team that was holding strong to, I think, the 4 spot in silver for the majority of the season, looking like they were probably going to make playoffs, but bounced at the last moment, 0 hour, as Amberflight Gaming gets in on the back of some really strong performances across the entire team when they needed it most.
yeah. Neji and Fish, huge 6-1 seasons.
Yeah, carrying that team and doing very, very well. Congratulations once again to your playoff teams from Silver Conference, Flame Pimps, Meme Dream Team, Dad Legend, and Amber Flight Gaming. Any last things to say on our playoff race as it has concluded? Speculation on playoff winner from anybody?
Oh
Odds
boy,
on
that's a
favorite? I'm
big
going Foolish
speculation to
Madmen.
make. I mean, Foolish Madman's 7-0, right? So that's the easy answer. But I don't know. I think there's some contention. I think Flame Pimps are in a really, really good spot this season. Meme Dream Team could take it. I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
pumped. Obviously, Swallows will win, but it's fine.
Right, there it is. There's
Yeah,
the Lemur Swallows prediction. And
of
Team
course.
Trees also, I think, has been really impressive
Yeah, Team
all
Tree's very,
season
very
long.
strong.
That's one to
So
watch.
I think this is just I'm not going to say I'm not going to say a coin toss, but I think that a lot of teams are in a prime position and ready to play some good Hearthstone to take home the title.
Yep, absolutely. Well, tune in next week, of course, or not next week, tomorrow, of course, to Tavern Talk as they do a preview of
Yeah.
all
Were you going to say
series,
something, Huge
especially
Rock?
Legacy playoffs.
It'll be interesting to see if Dad Legend seemed incredibly on the same page this week. Like I don't think I've ever seen a team just do the same classes like that.
Oh
It's
yeah,
pretty crazy,
I've
especially
seen
in a
that a
meta
few
this open.
times from F2L.
Yeah,
Yeah.
F2L has done it, and Posca's teams do it sometimes.
Oh,
But yeah, very, very
we
coordinated
do
there.
that a lot.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they keep that up, because then you can always get a kind of read on that, right? If you see a couple people submitted with the same classes, you kind of know what the rest of them will do. So you got to be
When
careful
you
there.
start that a lot, you start playing mind games of using the time of submission to decide what to do. And there's some really interesting things you can do with that. And as
Oh,
someone
I
who
I
has
never submit before 1:30 on my time because I just want to see.
yeah, I've waited late once for a match. I think I was up. I wasn't in Brazil at that point, but I think I was up until like 2:30 a.m. to make sure my opponent hadn't submitted yet, so they would. Um, the chance that they were just submitting the same was very high, and
Strats.
just thinking that they would submit the same as the player in their team was really interesting.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
I always submit on Monday morning just to mess with my opponent. I'm so confident in what I'm doing that they can't possibly beat me, right? If I submitted so quickly.
I love it. Well,
Yeah.
that wraps our legacy recap, and we have for you the final player power rankings for Legacy Series. This is
Wow.
Legacy Series Season 17 regular season in the books. Final player power rankings. Let's get them on the screen. Number one, who else could it be? Almost led wire to wire, flipped back and forth with his teammates slightly, but it's Torito 2 at 7-0, 21-6 game score, by the way, 31 PAR, just unbelievably strong season, dominating everybody in his matchups all season long. Followed by number two, Wild 9 at 6-1, always just in time, coming in with an undefeated season at 7-0. Two Fly, 6-1 in the 4 spot. We've got undefeated Your Mumked at 7-0 in the 5. We have a tie for 6th with Automated Button and Neji Boston, both with identical records at 6-1, identical game scores at 20-9, identical PARs at 27. In the number 8, we've got Jimbo at 6-1. Number 9, Based Inc., who I think has only lost once across 2 legacy seasons, the last 2.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, just Base doing Base things, hanging out in the 9 for player power rankings at 6-1, and closing out your top 10, it is Desharmo at 6-1.
Real quick, just a note, I completely agree with chat here. Always just in time is making his case in chat right now. He has one more match win and another game win with the same amount of losses, but yet has a lower PAR.
Gotta spam those rigs in chat. Blame Donde as always. I personally am sometimes confused when I see, undefeated records that are lower than players who have lost once, but PAR is a funny thing.
Right. Wild must have beaten someone who was like way above his PR or something.
Yeah.
And that's why it's like weighting him so highly. But it
Or
seems very
it's
weird.
either that or just like tougher matchups across the board when it comes
Obviously,
to
Wild
like
still
player
had a
strength and
stellar
player
season.
seasons.
Yeah.
But yeah, before we forget, let's go on through the honorable mentions as well. Honorable mentions for your Season 17 Legacy Series. We've got Dr. Fish with a 6-1 season, Matty Ebbs at 6-1, another undefeated player, as mentioned previously, RoboCats at 4-0, 12-0 game score, 4-0, 12-0. This dude literally never lost. Like he started playing Hearthstone, just didn't actually lose any game in Legacy. That boggles my mind. Continuing, Taco Cat at 5-2, and Duin bringing up the final spot in our honorable mentions at 4-3. Congratulations once again to these Legacy players. You can spam your rigs, but no amount of winning anymore will get you onto this list. This list is final.
So can we just like pay attention real quick? Can we like have a video camera of RoboCats' hands under the table while he's playing, just to make sure he's not like swapping cards or anything? Because I don't know, 12-0. I know he's top 500 legend in the 5 seed, but come on now.
Must be a hacker. Must be. All right, but that does it for Legacy. Any final words on the Legacy season that was as we head into playoffs before we move on over to our Pro recap? All right, let's move it on over. Let's get Pro Meta Report on the screen here. As always, like we've mentioned throughout the show, the meta reports seem to be a little bit glitchy. What we can take away from this, Demon Hunter, Priest, Rogue, and Warrior, the most frequently brought lineup with a pretty impressive win rate and game win rate. Our enemies, our top enemies of the meta, as we see from bans. Paladin taking quite a few bans last week. Warrior still more total bans. Quite a bit more Demon Hunter bans than we've seen in the Closeless series. A lot more Priest bans, a few Rogue, and when we look at overall, it's still Warrior holding that enemy number 1 spot with Paladin on the rise and Rogue close behind Warrior here. Shaman, 110 bans overall, 0 last week, 1 Bring last week. The data might not be right though, but man, Shaman has fallen hard.
Well, I happen to know the shaman can't be right because I only played one game and I won with it.
Nice. Game count 1. Total wins 0. Yeah. So, grains of salt, maybe like lots of grains of salt with this data on the screen.
Many grains of salt.
What I do know is Shaman has not been brought very often anymore and is not getting banned very much. And it used to be banned quite a lot. That nerf of 1 attack on a weapon really doing a lot of work.
That's
You just
still
have to play
surprising.
Doomhammer now.
Yeah, that's all. But what are you guys' thoughts on this meta right now? I know we have archetype stuff that we can dive into a little bit more probably next week when Marty rejoins us. Any particular trends jumping out, or you guys just want to jump right
Well,
into the conferences?
I'm just gonna throw this out there. I think Demon Hunter might be a bait. With it. It's got two of these lineups have it here, and they're at 28 and 16% win rates. And then you look at the win rate of the class, and it's not good. I know, like maybe the stats are wrong, but
Hey, all I'm saying is Priest is in the top lineup.
yeah, Priest is better than Demon Hunter.
I was gonna say.
Oh man,
OTK
like
Demon
this.
Hunter bad. You heard it here first.
not like this.
I kind of just want to make a great pun here and say that Shaman has been down by a landslide.
Oh, number 2 Lotus pun of the week. Nice. He's doing double duty this week. All
I
right.
need to get the word
The elements are gonna destroy you for that, Lotus.
Oh, well played. All right, and with that, we are going to move on to the recap of Black Conference. Let's get it up on the screen here, and we are looking at Hype Horizon once again maintaining their top spot in the conference, but just barely. And I think it's important to point out that points per week kind of indicate we have a different true leader in Black right now, and it's for the boys. But for now, we go off total points. Hyper Horizon gets to keep their logo in that top left for at least one more week. But for the boys, a very strong performance, just behind at 116. Aeon picking up a big win this week to move into third in the conference at 106. Yasharar's Clown College was moving up in the rankings and had a bye, so they just had to tread water a little bit, but still holding strong in that top 4 spot. As mentioned with some of the other series, it is the same for Pro. The top 4 in each conference will be making playoffs. So if the playoffs started today, that would be your top 4. The teams just barely outside of contention right now. We have Sogoi Red at 95 points. Bit of a bigger gap following that with the unknown at 80. Swagoi Black, Bad to the Bone, Cirque du Soul Fragment, close behind that point total, and followed by Glockgora and Illini Esports with some rough seasons so far as they try to overcome this just crazy gauntlet that is the Black Conference this season. So we are going to start off. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it looks like Hype Horizon's in the lead now, but I wouldn't be totally shocked if they end up in the 3 or the 4 for playoffs. I think it's possible because Aeon still is a game behind them as well, and so is Con College. And once they play those, if they get like 20-point weeks, Hype Horizon might have a kind of weird path where they have to play like Popeyes or someone from Pink early, and that might be a very weird playoffs.
Absolutely,
it's okay.
yeah.
As long as Hype Horizon can get Liquid Ox back on Hearthstone and off of League of Legends, I think that they will perform very, very well.
Right,
Yeah.
but then that changes. We have our top 2 teams playing in the first round of playoffs.
I would like to point out as well, as another thing on Hype Horizon, I was updating, I was getting some updates on the champions of previous seasons, and looking at Pro, Liquid Ox has been on the Pro Championship team in 3 out of 4 Pro seasons. That is pretty crazy. He was member of FTL for their back-to-back titles, and then of course won for Hype Horizon last season. So that's a pretty scary run.
Coincidence?
What's that?
I said coincidence.
Yeah,
Mm.
possibly. But we're going to start off in our highlighted matches with Aeon versus the Unknown. Lemur, I know you love to review some matches when my team gets beat up. So lay into me, bud. Talk to me about this match.
100%. So Donde did beat you this week. He did. But that's just as rigged as his power rankings. I wouldn't expect it to happen again. I mean, lightning doesn't strike twice, so we'll see a different result next time. But Donde did give you the smackdown this week. Ridiculous Hat sent Brushy off with, unfortunately, another loss, going 1-2 on his way out of the league this week. Best
Highlander
of luck to
Druid
him.
high rolls, by the way.
Highlander Druid high rolls.
It
Ooh.
was pretty nutty.
Nice. Yeah, Aeon just this week had a really good performance. Markshire over Isocles. You could expect that to go either way, and then really close in the 5 and the 6 with the Darren Solo Yaz going ahead and beating Donkey and Risen, which is really good wins for them. But Aeon, they're strong. They're at 106 right now. They can drop out, but if they keep having weeks like this, I'd expect them to stay.
Yeah, absolutely. Really important victory for Aeon.
Yeah,
Donde did a hype train video and they started losing ever since, but I guess he kind of calmed down and Aeon stabilized and now they're doing well. Go ahead, Heechuk.
Aeon's really good at getting points even when they lose. You look at Donkey and Risen; they still got 2 threes, and even though they have 2 losses, they're in a very commanding 3rd place right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just a lot of credit to that, and at the same time, Donkey and Hat are like, or Donde and Hat, sorry, are 2 of the players that I would least like to face personally because they're very unpredictable. I mean, you can see Hat brought Highlander Druid and Bomb Warrior. Those aren't the decks you would expect for those classes. And then Donde brought Big Paladin.
Oh,
Of all
Donde just
things.
went with a hard counter on me.
Yeah.
Dual Paladin, baby.
It was
Easy.
It was a rough one. He
but
was in my
that's,
head. It happens.
Yeah, but those are players that I think are very scary when people are unpredictable like that.
Absolutely.
And then the rest of the team, when they also put up 2 points when they lose. That's a terrifying combination.
Yeah, well said. And next, we're going to talk about Bad to the Bone versus Illini Esports. Illini Esports picking up their first victory of the season, and one of our players of the week, Tiger, got a big victory here. This was real close, though. Lotus, can you talk to me about this matchup?
Sure. This was a very tight match. I mean, 12-13 is so crazy. Avi beat Vampire Nighthawk 3-1, still sporting that shaman. Black Swan beat Dardar 3-2. Tiger had an incredible performance beating Nine Eyebrows 3-2. I beat Drab Dude I pulled a very interesting strat of looking at the lineups the night when I had to submit, seeing, had submitted. Let's see what he did. Oh, that's cool. He's targeting OTK Demon Hunter mostly. Yeah, I'll do that.
Nice.
And it worked. Yeah. Copying someone's lineup has been very effective, so I credit my win to Hat. You can put 2 wins on PPR for him this week.
And ironically, Hat didn't play into OTK Demon Hunter, and you did.
Yeah. Thievery pays off.
And Trido beat A2 with a DQ, it seems, 3-0.
True, yeah. Unfortunately, once again, we see a DQ win is determining the outcome of a match. Hopefully, it shouldn't be too relevant as these teams are kind of lower in the standings, but every point ultimately matters, so we can't stress enough the importance. Make sure you play your matches. It really helps out your team a lot if you actually play.
Yeah, I know Bad to the Bonus had a really hard season just playing their matches and getting there. Like, there's been so many. Obviously, is the only person who's played every week. That's tough when your
I mean,
players
hey,
can't commit the
I can't
time to
blame Lotus.
to
He took an
be there.
actual like full week off with COVID and getting a
Oh
PhD.
yeah,
Oh no,
Those
no,
are
no. Lotus makes
that's
sense.
those
fair. That's fair.
defensible.
But yeah,
Nine
when you
Eyebrows took some time off to win a Masters Tour qualifier.
Right? Yeah. Reasonable.
yeah, but you can kind of tell it's like if everyone brought their best every week, it'd be maybe a little
Oh
bit of
yeah,
a stronger
Yeah,
showing.
this looks like a very
100%.
strong team that has just been unfocused so far this season, and it shows
Yeah.
in the point totals. But there's still a little bit of time left in the season. If anyone catches fire, there's a chance.
Oh, these players are so good. I could easily see them getting like a couple 20-point weeks back to back and totally shaking
Yeah.
things up.
Avi's opponent next week. Please prep for Highlander Shaman.
Solid. All right, and that does it for the Black Conference as we move on to our final conference of our final series to cover this week. It is, as always, the moment of the show where we get hungry because Popeye's spicy chicken sandwich refuses to let up the top spot. It's been wire to wire. This team has been so dominant, and in our marquee match this week, they played the number 2 team in their conference, and it was very close. 15-12 victory for Popeye's spicy chicken sandwich over Faction. Before we get into that, just to run down the playoff picture as it looks right now. Popeye's, of course, in the number 1 spot. Faction fairly close behind in the 2. Tap Washers very close as well in point totals in the 3rd spot, and F2L would be your 4th if the playoffs started today. Of course, they do not, and there are quite a few other teams that are pretty close in contention. Sheepies with 96 and a 5-1 record, Sushi Rats at 87, Due Process at 86, Attack Mode at 83. No pros here, a very strong, recognizable name, having a bit of a rocky season, but 76 still, enough to maybe make a run late. Poem Locked and Loaded and Corrupted Clown Fiesta, both at 66. Going to be a very tall order for those teams to work their way into the playoffs if it is not already decided, as that rounds out your pink conference.
Yeah, I think it's so incredibly close right now between Faction, my team, Tap Washers, and then Sheepies. I think we're all within like a hair of passing each other, and that'll
Yeah.
be a really close race to watch in the following couple of weeks before it finishes up.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and
This
these
again.
points per week give you a little bit of a dark horse too in Due Process, who's holding down 14 points per week, behind Sushi Rats at 12, and barely ahead of Attack Mode at 13. So Due Process might be another team that works their way into that playoff conversation.
Worry about them a little bit because they've had the easier schedule and they haven't played all of their matches compared to some of the other top teams. So I don't think it'll be super easy to catch up, but they could do it.
Yeah,
And maybe they can deny if they play those good teams and they can deny points. That could boost their own standing within the finals.
it's Hearthstone. Anything can happen. But we are going to start off with our highlighted match of the week. Leading with Popeye's Spicy Chicken Sandwich versus Faction. Heatshot, can you break down this match for me?
Yeah, Faction is one of the strongest teams, but Popeyes is number 1. And you can see they hold their number 1 spot still, even after this week. Zabe, Bobby X, and Myanodon taking wins with Paladin in their lineups, and Wet Goose and Mick taking losses without Paladin. Last week, they kind of thrashed us because they'd figured out that Ramp Paladin was good, and all of them brought it, and none of us did on Tap Washers. So I kind of
Yeah.
wonder what they were thinking about dropping it this week. It didn't seem to work out, but they still are very strong, and they won the week, and they put up points even where they lost.
Yeah, hallmarks of a very good team for sure. I think it's extremely likely we see both of these teams are making it into the playoffs from this conference.
For sure. I think it's really important though to note that there was no sweeps in these series other than that DQ, right? And those 3 points literally change. Like it's a 3-point difference here, and it gives Tap Washers a chance to take that number 2 spot. Whereas if Walterski could have taken a game or two or potentially one, it could be looking different in the 1, 2, 3, and faction could be in a lot better spot going into the hopeful playoff contention.
Well, we've got a bye, so faction's going to stay ahead at least for another
faction
week.
will stay ahead for
But
this week for sure.
Yeah,
But,
definitely.
Could
They
matter.
do not want to let those points slip by. That could be a nail biter for
Yeah.
4th and 5th.
Every single point
Yeah.
matters, especially when you're talking about seeding in pro is very important.
We're making it to crunch time. And
Yeah, maybe they want to get 4th instead of 3rd to dodge.
oh,
Dodge Horizon.
that's the next level thinking right there. You play it exactly right.
Uh-huh.
But we've got one last match to recap for you, which is Sushi Rats versus Due Process. Lemur, can you take me through this one? It doesn't get closer than a tie here. Both teams picking up pretty important points and getting, in that striking distance range for playoff positioning. What happened here?
The best part about it too is that they were a point different before this week started, and they're still a point different after this week is over because they tied. But they're both in a better position, having those 13 points. We do have on the side of Sushi Rats and Due Process, I think those players like Sprinkle and Boolean, Boolean taking the sweep this week, if they pick it up, they definitely have a chance at cracking that top 4, either of these teams. We saw a really, really close series, obviously, with it being a tie. But the way that it was a tie with Boolean luckily getting that sweep over Sprinkle and Goose getting the 3-1 over Hickett meant that the 3-2 losses by Rice Bowl and Mr. Python were perfectly fine for Due Process and made them go even with Sushi Rats, which I think is really, really good. I think if they can overtake Sheepies and F2L has a bad week, then either of these teams are viable to make playoffs.
Looking at these classes, though, I get more and more worried for Due Process because they had their bye earlier. That could be a bad thing in that it's good in that there's not as much information on them, so they can have a good start. But if they're all bringing the same decks every week and the other teams catch on to that, then there's something to exploit there because they all brought Combo DH, they all brought World Kick Rogue, they all brought Enraged Warrior or Control Warrior. And that's
sometimes being
kind of
easily
scary.
Scouted a bit dangerous.
Yep, scouting is very important in pro, which is why I expect all of them to bring all of different classes next week.
I hope so. I hope they make some changes.
There you go. A hodgepodge. But I find it interesting. We've talked a lot about these two conferences in pro and how it appeared that Black Conference was just the one that looked stronger on the surface, but player power rankings may tell a different story here. We shouldn't be overlooking Pink because we have some incredibly strong teams and players in Pink Conference, and for I think maybe the first time we have the top 2 in player power rankings. Let's get it up on the screen here. The top 2 is Pink Conference. Flamekiller undefeated 6-0. In our number 1 spot. Harash at 5-2 in the 2. You can spam your rigs again because I don't know why undefeated 6-0 German Shep is in the 3, but he is for right now.
What?
He had the number 1 spot. He had a bye, and then he lost it, and he hasn't gotten the top spot back, even though he keeps winning. It's fine.
I'm
going to throw a hypothesis out here. I'm going to throw a hypothesis. I think that the average 1 seed in Black is probably weaker than the average Pink seed. For 1.
Nice.
Because I think that Pink is more balanced and Black has a bunch of really good teams, but some bad teams too.
Yeah.
So I think
I catch your drift. German Shep has lost 2 less games and 2 less matches.
Right, but if the 1
PAR.
seeds are 2 and 6 or something, right?
Listen, Shep, just get better PAR. It's easy. Moving on to the number 4. Honest Zabe is our spot there at 6-1. We've got Molestar in the 5 at 5-2. Revy 5-2 in the 6. Our very own guest for tonight, Heatshock, holding down the number 7 at 6-1. Donde moving on up, bouncing me right out of there with his victory. Nicely done, Donde. Way to rig it. 5-1. We've got Buck Nasty ZB at 5-1 as well in the number 9. And rounding out your top 10 for player power rankings, it is Rescue Wabbit at 5-1. And moving on to the honorable mentions, there's one name that is just difficult enough that Lotus, you know I'm going to have you read me these honorable mentions here. Who do we got?
Sure. We have Brian O'Brien with a 5-1 record, followed by Ridiculous Hat with a 5-1 record, Bobby X 5-2, Kalis Luna 5-1, and McBanterface 5-2. Really strong showing overall, and a lot of players who've been doing really well in Hearthstone as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always wowed when I look at the player power rankings for Pro because it's just a list of names of extremely good players. You see top ladder finishers here, you see Masters Tour qualifier winners here. It's just across the board, players who are extremely strong, and sometimes we get this revolving door too of just different players moving in and out of honorable mentions or the top, you know, uh, maybe 7 through 10 or 5 through 10 or something. Just every week it seems like there's a new surprise for, oh yeah, this incredibly good player is now on this list. It's been impressive.
Yeah, it's really crazy. Other than one or another player that they just don't know donde estás, I really don't know. It's a really crazy setup.
Nice. But with that, that does wrap up your Pro Series recap for Week 7. We've got just a few more things to cover for you tonight. Your RNG card of the week, as always, when we talk about highlights from the week that was, the RNG card of the week will lead right into that, and we may have a little bit of time to mention in passing some of the announcements that came out. So let's move it on back over to the caster screen. Here we go. And Lotus, do you remember what the RNG card of the week was? You got a little breakdown for
I
us?
do. I mean, the RNG card of the week this week, there's just one possibility. You said it. It has to be ETC. You had Thought Steel generate Underlight Angling Rod, which generated Sludge Slurper, which generated a Faceless Black, which randomly summoned ETC, and then there was a broom just
Yeah. I mean, at least the broom was
God,
main
I love
decked,
that
I
Broom
guess.
exists.
But
Yeah.
oh wow. Yeah, so we're gonna put that highlight up on the screen, and as Shep has mentioned in chat, time to relive some bad memories. Don't worry, Shep, you did at least win the match overall, but not this game as shenanigans ensued. Let's get this highlight clip up here.
it's always Priest or Rogue.
Wait, do we have lethal?
Oh my god,
Lethal.
the ETC lethal. Oh my god, I didn't even look at it. Oh my god, nice Jewish owl. The ETC victory.
Wow.
Unbelievable. Scamming the scam paladin.
That is amazing.
That was absurd. I wasn't even thinking about that the entire time. Owl though, he loves ETC. All right, and there it is. That's your clip. Oh my god. I couldn't
God,
stop
I'll be
saying,
honest,
oh
I don't
my
think I
god.
would
It
have
was
played that lackey. Like, I would have lost that game.
I was just so crazy. But we love the fireworks that happen as we occasionally just get some absurd clips of the week. Love to put these up here and talk to you about just the wackiness that sometimes happens on those THL streams. Nice
God, I'm
Jewish
excited
owl.
for classic mode.
What can you say? The man knows his ETC.
Yeah, he does.
But
Yeah.
with that wraps up our show for tonight. With everything we have for you, moving on to our final words. Of course, we can take this opportunity to talk about the announcements that were just released or anything else that you have on your plate. We're going to start with you, top left, Lemur. Go ahead, final words for tonight.
All right, so that clip right there is why I'm so pumped for classic mode coming to Hearthstone. I'm absolutely looking forward to two things. One, I'm looking forward to just reliving some great memories with some great old decks that you can't play anymore because nerfs happened or they're just too slow for a while or all that stuff. I'm really looking forward to it, but I'm also looking forward to Priest being the worst class in the game pre-Nax Rammus. I'm very much looking forward to not having Priest players just generate an ETC on my face with an animated broomstick that happens to be in hand and beating me for 14 burst damage. I'm pumped. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm excited for it.
Yeah, Divine Spirit Inner Fire, easy.
Yeah, right.
All right, awesome. Heat Shock, final words for tonight.
Oh, I'm honestly so excited for the classic set overhaul. It's not going to be the classic set anymore, but it's going to be the core set. But I feel like using the same cards to solve the same problems for a long time. So I think it'll be really cool to see a whole new toolkit appear and different options for teching decks for lineups and just building stuff for ladder and fun new strategies.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. I love that they're doing a core set now and finally changing up basic and classic. And we're even going to see like a few new, like brand new cards introduced into the core set too, I think, from the announcement. Is that right?
Hmm. Yeah, I think there's not that many, but there's a few new cards.
Exciting stuff. Exciting times. All right, well said. And lastly, to the bottom right, Dr. Lotus Knight, take it away. Final words on the night.
I'm looking forward to playing classic Hearthstone for 2 days and then thinking it's stale and going back to normal Hearthstone.
No. Classic
Nice.
Hearthstone is forever, Lotus.
More importantly, I think I'm just really excited for core set. I think there's so much potential. Some classes have way too good core sets, and I'm looking at Rogue when I'm saying this, and also looking at bit of Mage, but not as much. And some classes have so awful core sets, and giving them something interesting there is going to be cool. I'm also hoping that, well, we usually get the expansion announcement with BlizzCon, probably something next. That's probably going to be really cool, and I hope we get nerfs to change something. Just because I love nerfs, I think it makes for really interesting unstable metas, even when the meta is already very unstable.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah,
Well said.
Ixar did confirm on Twitter that this was not the new game mode that was in the expansion release schedule that we
Ooh.
got early in the year. So we are still getting a new game mode at some point soon. So it'll be really cool to see if that gets announced at BlizzCon.
Oh, that's exciting. I just assumed that was a new game mode, so that's cool.
Yeah,
to
no,
hear.
everyone did, but no, Ixar confirmed that it was not the new game mode they had in the works.
Wow.
Nice. All right, and want to thank you as always, THL, for tuning into our show. Hope you had a good time. Make sure that you stay tuned for further announcements on our Discord, on this Twitch channel in the future. We have tons of shows and matches incoming in this week and the weeks to follow. As always, we are followed on Wednesday by Tavern Talk, our preview show. We have matches on Thursday. We've got matches on Friday. We've got matches on Saturday. We've got matches on Sunday. And then the week loops back around. Monday, we should have the return of Around the Saloon since Mako will no longer be too busy with other life things, I think, to do the show. And then, of course, back to Tuesday. Thank you again, everybody. Hope you enjoyed. Have a great night, and we will see you all next time.
Bye.